Have you ever considered how much time and money a proactive IT solution can actually save your company? I'm Matt from Mindcore. I'm the CEO. Matt Johnson is our Chief Information Security Officer. He's been working with us for, I was going to say 10, but we'll go with 9. I'll meet you in the middle.
Okay.
And you know the interesting thing, dude? We think about when you and I first started doing this together. When we first met, I mean, it was like a whole different world.
Oh, it was.
We were doing cyber, and it was like, oh, let's put some tools in place. But people were like,
yeah, people were skeptical. There was a few tools. There was no real policy around it. It was kind of the wild, wild west. Now it's really starting to shape up into the future. But yeah, it was a little chaotic back in the day.
And we weren't seeing very many hacks. I mean, we would talk about, give good advice to people, and we help a lot of clients with putting systems in place to be preventative. And if you think back, even up until 3 or 4 years ago, it was very difficult to get people to agree because there was no budget for it. And it was always like, oh, it's not going to happen to me. And you only hear about it with big companies. Now, fast forward to now. And like you were just saying, in the past 2 months, we've seen 3. This is clients that we deal with. Some of them have the right things in place and some of them don't. They don't take the advice. But the one that we had that happened last week was an interesting one because it was the same exact threat actor that we talked about on the last live that we did, which was 2 weeks ago, right? So that organization is called Akira, right? Akira.
Yep.
And they're pretty well known. I mean, they've been around for 3 years.
Yeah, they've been around for a couple years. They do a lot of brute forcing into people's networks. They're very good at getting in. I guess you would say the best thing about a hacker is they're very honest and they do what they say they're going to do. So far, every time I've seen them, they've always negotiated the settlement. Once they've been paid, they always delete the files and give the decryption tools. They do give a security report, but the security report, now I've seen 4 of them and they're all exactly identical. So they're just giving you a canned, turn on MFA, don't answer suspicious emails, yada, yada, yada.
I have one that I'm going to show in a minute, but before we do that, maybe we could just talk about what happened. And by the way, when we do get to it, it is interesting that they actually send us something with recommendations to tell us how, we don't know if it's true, but they give us a list of things that are risks that you should be aware of, what they're looking for, and they actually tell you how they got in. And you're right, we now know that organization is very trustworthy. Even though they're a criminal organization, we know now, having dealt with them so many times, that when we negotiate with them, they do negotiate in good faith and they do give you what they promise you. We've never once had them not do that.
Right.
So let's so what happened last week? So last week on Monday, it was Monday morning, I think we first were alerted that one of our clients started to see servers weren't working. They're just like, yes, things aren't working. So as soon as we log in, we say, oh my God, there's things encrypted. Of course we have the ransom note. And in this case, they encrypted, a couple of hosts.
I think, a couple 3 out of 4 or 5 ESXi hosts, so not all of them. So we do think that the containment we did, as soon as we saw it, stopped them from getting all the hosts.
We got in quick. I mean, we actually responded quickly to this one. Mm-hmm. And in this case, it wasn't even that we got an alert, because this particular client didn't have certain things in place that would have alerted us sooner. So it was more that they just noticed something wasn't working, and we jumped in and we immediately saw hey, this doesn't look right. What's going on here? You could probably speak more to what we saw initially, but we locked it down pretty quick.
Yeah, we locked it down within, I'd say, a few minutes of being alerted onto it. We basically stopped all incoming traffic so that nothing could get from the internet into the machines. I think that did 2 things. 1, it stopped them from taking data because they told us they didn't take any data. And 2, it stopped so we didn't encrypt all the ESXi hosts, which wound up being beneficial in the recovery effort.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we did a recovery. What was the one we worked on that was about a month and a half ago, where we had them back up in an hour. As soon as we got the decryption key, we had them back up in an hour. This one took almost an entire day. It took us
about 5
hours. 7:30 in the morning. I don't think we were done till 4 by the time it was back up and running.
Yeah, this particular time, previous ones we've done, if there's an ESXi or VMware or Hyper-V, they just encrypt files that the virtual servers are on. This time they decided to encrypt the actual host files, so we couldn't actually boot into the servers, and we found that it was faster just to rebuild. We were going to rebuild them anyway. We were just trying to boot into them and decrypt them to get them up and running, but we found it was just faster to start rebuilding the servers and reattach all the storage from there.
So let's talk for a sec. So for the people that have no idea what we're talking about that may watch this one day, this organization is called Akira, and I mean they've been around for a while, and they pretty much do the same thing to anybody that they get into. They get into your systems, they encrypt all your servers, they typically encrypt your computers too, and they will take the data. I guess the word is exfiltrate. They'll pull the data off, and then you'll find a nice shiny ransom note. And this case, well, before I go into it, so is there anything about this organization or anything that you know offhand that's just like a Wikipedia kind of thing? Anything interesting, anything worth knowing? Or
nothing worth knowing. I mean, they're fairly newish. They've been around probably since the beginning of 2023. They've changed their decryption tool a couple times because there's a couple companies that have figured out how to decrypt. Their current one, you can't decrypt though, just based on the way it does encryption. But they are very good once they get in at working quickly, as we've learned. A lot of operators will spend a long time in a system. They seem to want to get in and get out and get decrypted pretty quickly.
Yeah. So this is something that along the way with this last one that we had. So we get in, we see what's going on, and we know the deal from this Akira. So we immediately realized that they moved really quick. They got the backups again on this one. So there was no way to get the backups. I think they deleted the backups, or they wiped the server. They did something, but the backups
they deleted everything out of the backup server.
And you think that you have things in place, which they did have in place to even segregate the network, but these people are good, and they know exactly what they're doing, and this is how they make their money. So they moved quick, they cracked passwords, they navigated through the network, and there are definitely some lessons to be learned. But one of the things that we knew right away, as soon as we saw that everything was encrypted, was we immediately contacted them, started the conversations, because we knew that the ransom had to be paid.
Yeah, we started the conversation, I think, around 11:45 on Monday, the 30th, and I'm pretty sure we had the final agreement for an amount by early Tuesday morning.
Yeah, and this is the part you got the red tape and the bureaucracy of having to deal with insurance companies. So the client, immediately we said, look, call your insurance company. You know the deal. The insurance company has a team. They have a lawyer that's ready to go. They have a forensics team, like a response team that's ready to go. And they start with their emails, and then they move so slow. And they have to move slow because everybody has to agree to every communication. Right. I mean, it takes them a day just to actually figure out, even how to take the first step. It's really mind-numbing. So we knew that this client couldn't be down. So we started negotiating right away. Right?
Yeah, I think we had negotiated everything before that we even had our second meeting with the insurance company agent.
And they said to us, we don't want you talking to them. We're like, well, we've been talking to them already for hours while we were waiting for you guys to reach out to us. And
we really didn't have time to wait.
We don't have time to wait. And the initial ask in this case was lower than usual because we got to them so quick that they didn't have time to actually pull the data off of the system.
Right.
Now, we didn't know that at the time, but we were surprised because usually they'll ask for $500,000 to $1 million, and they only asked us for
easily seven figures sometimes.
They asked us for 150 or 175 or something like that out of the gate, and we were like, "What the heck? That's low." And so they actually said to us, they were like, "Well, we didn't get your data. We only encrypted your server, so we're not going to charge you as much." And we were like, "Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you."
Yeah, I know.
But here's what's interesting, and I want to share this real quick. See if this will work. Hang on. Let me take this down. Put this up. Okay. So this screenshot is, let me get over here. It's called ransomware.live. And you can see I'm scrolling up and down, but this is just recent attacks, and these get registered here. So this is for Akira. Some of these don't have all the information, so I'm going to go down to where this actually starts with solid information. And these are all Akira, and if I keep going down, it goes to other ransomware organizations. But
correct. Yep.
This is what's interesting. So here they asked 160, negotiated down to 75. Here they asked 220, got it down to 90. 250, 100, 180, 105. So we already knew that they usually will come down by like 50%, and because it's from our own experience. And you can even see by this, it's kind of true, give or take. So what I thought was interesting was when you pointed out to me, there's nothing on here that goes below 75. And what did we get them down to? We got them down to 65,000.
Yep.
Right. So we started 125. And I'll share with everybody, it's not a secret. There's a book that I first read about 10 years ago by Chris Voss, which he has a very, very popular book called Never Split the Difference. He was a hostage negotiator for the FBI, and he does sales training now. I read his book 10 years ago, and I memorized all the key stuff from it, and I began to implement it in business. And to the point where it's just the way that I talk, and it's just the way that I think. It just became, and now people around me start to use the same style, and it just helps you move conversations along much easier. So I had a good sense. I had to negotiate with people. So while the insurance company's telling us, hey, we'll get together on a call, I just start using the tactics that I learned. You're typing, you're going back and forth with the guy. I'm telling you what to write. And we went 125. I think they came down. I think we initially offered 25. And what did the guy say to you? That's an insult?
He basically told me that if I want to come back with something real.
So we're like, all right, that's too low. So I think then we moved up. I knew our goal was 65,000. That was 65.
Right.
So we went up to, we went to 50. So we went to 50, but they went from 125, I think, down to 110, right?
Yes.
And then we came back with something we couldn't budge, and they came down to
they reiterated 4 times they wouldn't go below 100.
Right. And then they went to 100, right?
Right.
Or something like that. And then we went up a little bit more.
We went up to 55, then they came to 90.
They came to 90, and I'm like, just go for it. Let's just go for the 65. I don't think they're going to do it. And I told you whatever to write. And we're on the phone with the insurance company. They finally organized their call. We're on the phone with like 8 people, the insurance people, the lawyers, everybody. And they're like, okay, we're going to start to begin the negotiation. And they asked you for the information. They asked you for the portal to start the conversation. And as we were talking, you're like, well, we're done. They just came down to 65. And everybody was like, what?
Yeah, you weren't going to get them lower.
Everybody on the phone agreed. They couldn't even believe they came down to 65. They never saw, and they've never seen this organization, no matter what they started at, come down to 65. And so you can see on the screen here, the lowest one that we even see here is 75. So you had a very good comment, which I thought was great. We should put on our website that we just like ransomware negotiation now.
I know.
I think we're getting pretty good at it.
I don't necessarily think that we should be good at it, but if you got to be good at it, at least you can help people save monne. It's
now,
a shame
to show everybody.
You have to be good at it. This
is what it looks like. Okay, you can see that they start a conversation. Now, you did communicate with them on the dark web, right?
It is. Well, so through a Tor browser, yeah.
Okay. And you can see you go back and forth like in a chat, and it does take a little while. But this is what goes on when you're trying to negotiate the release of the hostages, so to speak. This is how we try to get the money down. So it worked. And so the other thing that I want to share is, I'm going to pull that. So after we agreed on the amount, then the insurance company took probably till I think the next morning.
It took another 5 hours to run through all their checks to be able to pay them, which I get, but time was
so the insurance company pays, and we're like, okay. And they're still moving slow as molasses. So I said to you, I'm like, just watch that chat. We're not waiting for the insurance company. We need that decryption key as fast as possible. So exactly as we expected, the insurance company was like not paying attention. You see them, you're watching, they respond, you grab the key, bring it back to the team, and next thing you know, we start to go and look to decrypt. And then we ran into some really challenging situations.
Right.
It was not straightforward. You needed to know Linux. We had a team of 5 people working on it, and we were doing really, really well. But to their credit, there was one guy that was with not the insurance company, but the firm that they bring in.
Yep.
What are they called? It's like a response company.
Yeah, incident response company.
And so the one guy knew Linux real well, hops on with us, helped us get through some of the barriers we were facing. And little by little, it's such a slow process, but we chipped away. And I think by 4:00, we had everything back up. So
we did.
Without any backups, keeping the ransom down to 65,000, and from start to finish was basically 3 days. We had the company back up, all their servers back up, and everything at that point. Then we went and did some forensics after the fact, and you found how they got in. So how did they actually get in?
Yep. So what I found is it looks like a user credentials have been compromised, their VPN credentials. The threat actor logged into the VPN, had access to the network, found a development server being used, logged into that development server, which was still on the main domain, which is a pretty big no-no. But so once they were on that development server on the domain, they were able to run several threat actor tools to grab credentials and brute force and kind of work their way around, and then roll out the ransomware.
Yeah. Now it's interesting because all of this stuff mainly can be avoided, but even if it can't be, even if they figure out how they're going to get in, they get in. Once they're in, you can't make it so easy for them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of lessons learned. Every time we go through these with people, there's always lessons learned. And after the fact, at the very end, we got this message, right? So 24 or 48 hours later, they send, and this is actually what it looks like. It doesn't look as nice as the one I was showing everybody. It looks like this. What are they basically telling you here, Matt?
Well, this is Akira's normal security report. They send this to everybody. And the last 4 I've seen have been word for word. But what they're trying to tell you is that they purchased the access on the dark web, as they call it. And then they were able to use that to basically go in, break into your system. And then they say they spent weeks inside the network, but we know from this customer and the forensics afterwards, maybe a day that they were in the system. Probably less. And then they go through the recommendations that any security company would give you: strong passwords, MFA wherever, make sure you have patching, all up-to-date software version. So they're really just trying to, giving this to look like they're providing a service after.
But realistically, they're giving you a list of the most common ways people get in.
They are. Yep.
And they're telling you, solve this problem.
Yeah, solve these 5, 7.
Solve this, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to screenshot this and send it to all my clients who are still resisting putting things in place. I have clients, Matt, you can't make this up. I mean, we have clients that we deal with, right? Where they, just before we get on this live, I was looking through a list and I'm trying to convince people to spend $400 a month, $350 a month. And if they just don't think it's going to happen to them. So
this becomes the I'm too small, or it's not going to happen to me, or my data's not that important. But your data is important to you when you can't get to it.
Or even if you think your data is not important, how is it important that you're able to work?
Right. If you have access to your data or access to your systems, you can't run your company. You're not going to have a company anymore.
I had this from our last live. Mm-hmm. The solution is better choices, right? It keeps coming back to the same thing. You can't believe that it's not going to happen to you. It can and it will. It's going to happen to you. It's going to happen to everybody.
Yep.
And it's going to happen to some people more than once. We have clients who it's happened more than once, and in a lot of cases, it's because of the phishing emails. It's not. In this case, it was they hacked in through a VPN, but in most cases, it's because of the phishing emails. And we have a client today that sent us an email this morning saying they want to cancel KnowBe4, which is the phishing awareness and training program. And they're like, oh, we don't see a need for it. I'm like, oh, now I got to try and explain to them. It's like, you don't see it working until you stop using it. And then one of your staff members or team members is less aware and less sharp. They click on an email and now you breach the whole company, which I think those Verizon reports that come out every year, I'm pretty sure Verizon still consistently is saying 95% of the breaches start with a phishing email.
We had talked to a client last week. They had one user that failed their KnowBe4 phishing 4 times in 1 week.
And what do they do about it?
They put them through training, and then they'll have to figure out some other alternatives for their system because, apparently they're going to click on everything.
So you and I are seeing this on a regular basis. It's not, I mean, look, when we're in this business, and it's interesting. I was saying to somebody I think I saw somebody at the gym over the weekend or something, and they're like asking me, how's business, how's cyber and everything. And I said, you know what? 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, all those years, this was just a service that we provided that didn't get it wasn't very noisy, right? There weren't a lot of breaches, and you're trying to convince people to put things in place to avoid the breaches. Now this is a business.
Yeah, I mean, the breaches we saw 5, 6 years ago were things like, the San Francisco subway system was breached, or a giant hospital children's was breached, or, the entire city of New York was breached, or city of Baltimore, which we actually worked on at one point. Now it's, Dave's Lumber and Supply with 15 computers and, $1.5 million a year in revenue is getting breached.
100%. I can't say which entity it is, but one of our clients is one of the state police organizations in one of the states in the US. For $450 a month, we're advising them that they should put some cyber tools in place, give us an opportunity. We already do some of their IT, we do their cloud, but we're like, you need to put some things in place to really give us some opportunity to protect you. The guy gets back to me today and he's like, well, I'm meeting with some people next week. I don't think they're going to approve it. And I'm like, $450 a month to protect? This is the state police.
Well, I mean, you and I were talking to a healthcare client last week, and we were trying to explain that, what they have, they're currently not HIPAA compliant, and, they need a few more things, but they didn't really seem pressed.
I'm not sure what they're going to do with that organization. That's another one. They have 200 employees. It's a major medical office.
What, like
6 locations?
Yep.
Just 6 of them? Or 7?
6 or 7.
And they've got HIPAA compliance. And the thing is, it's still a practice that's owned by a doctor. Mm-hmm. And no offense to doctors, but they're typically not business savvy. Just is what it is. And what are you laughing at over there?
And do not like to spend money.
They don't like to spend money, and it's not cheap. We want them to put KnowBe4 in, and it's going to be a few thousand a month because they've got a lot of employees and they need some advanced services. And I got on the phone with them last week. We got to do something. You have to be HIPAA compliant.
Yeah.
And it's just bizarre, that the position is, we know, we'll think about it. What did I say to him? I said to him,
well, you had said that, so the whole reason we were talking is we had noticed a large amount of traffic coming and going from a particular domain controller. And so we treated it as a breach, as obviously, as you and I are famous saying.
Guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, everything is a breach until it's not a breach. So we went there, we're still kind of looking at it, but we know it's not a breach. But as we were talking to them the next day, you were like, if this was, and you don't have all these, especially backups and some other things that we want to put in place, you're out of business for 2 to 3 weeks. That's a facility that size. That's a lot of lost dollars in revenue for 3 weeks.
Could you imagine? I mean, they were down for a little while. They had a problem. I just remember it was a few months back. There was an issue where people in the medical industry couldn't do billing. There was a breach with, it affected doctors all over the country. They were backed up. This was earlier in the year because they were backed up for like 3 months after that, getting their billing back on track. It affected so many doctors' offices. Another one of our client, who they're in Jersey. They're in our building in Jersey. They also have the office in Honduras. And they have, I'm talking about, and they're in the medical billing aspect of things, and they actually were devastated. They were dealing with hospitals all over the country, and it's like, okay, we know this is happening, so we're talking to our client. He still doesn't have backups in place. We've been doing his IT for a year, and we've been telling him, we initially gave him 2 years ago a risk assessment. He wasn't doing any backups. And by the way, this is a very smart individual.
Yeah,
he's a very smart guy.
It's also interesting to remember that this client came to you via a breach, right?
They found us online 3 years ago when they had a breach, and they wanted us to do some pen testing for them. We ended up taking over a lot of all their IT. We developed a really good relationship, and they began to believe in us and trust us. And now they've
already had an experience, but yet they're still hesitant to.
Right. That's what's really interesting. So we were on the phone with them, and I'm like, look, you got it. If this happened to you, and you didn't have backups, and all your machines were encrypted, it would take us weeks to put you back together. Weeks. You'd be out of business for weeks. I don't even know how you guys would operate. He's like, well, our EMR's in the cloud. Okay, fine. Your main system's in the cloud, but all your x-rays, all your images, all your data, everything you use on these computers, if your computers were all encrypted, you couldn't work. He's like, oh, well, that's true.
And if you want to think of, the size of that company, it's going to be a meaty ransom from any ransomware provider.
Oh, forget it. It's a medical office.
Yeah, that's going to be 7 figures easily.
They're going to be easily $1 million. Right? So, and I said to him, do you have cyber insurance? I actually don't remember what his answer was. Remember what he said?
No, I don't remember that. I should have said.
But I did ask him if he had cyber insurance, and I asked him if, I don't recall if he said yes or no, but basically the end result is we already had finally convinced him to put a backup solution in place a month ago. He approved it, and we're still waiting on a deposit because we don't lay money out for people for hardware. And he's like, oh, I thought that was paid. I'm like, no, it hasn't been paid. You got to send us the money so we can get this going. And now I think it's moving forward. But the whole moral of this entire story we're telling, it shouldn't take this much pain and all these stories to get you as a business owner to protect your own business. It feeds your family, it feeds your employees' families. You have clients or customers or patients that rely on you. It's like, how do you not protect your business? Like, how do you have this thought that it's not going to happen to me? And it goes back to the solution is to make better choices. It is going to happen to you. It's a guarantee. It's just a matter of when it happens, how many days are you going to be down for? Can we get you back up and running in a couple hours, a couple days, couple weeks, or never? And that's a choice you make, and it's directly correlated to the investment.
And ransomware operators don't really care whether you're a small business, family business, nonprofit. None of that matters to them.
No,
the only things I've really ever seen them care about are large children's hospitals and some large healthcare organizations. But for the most part, they don't care what kind of business you are. They will figure out a way to get that ransom paid.
Yep. So I think this was good. If anybody, we had a few people coming and going while we were doing this live, but I know this will be up on YouTube, and we'll do it again next week. So I'm hoping between now and next Monday when we do this that there's no breaches.
Yeah, we had to skip last Monday because of said breach.
Because of the breach. We were all like,
yeah, we couldn't jump off for a half an hour to jump on this, but yeah.
Yeah. We're going to be down here. I'm at the Florida office, so we're getting ready for the storm that's coming over us. This the storm that started from out of nowhere all the way on the west side of the Gulf of Mexico, where storms never start since the history of recording storms. You could look it up. There's never been a storm that started over there from nothing. All of a sudden it goes, and now it's a Category 5 in the matter of like 2 days.
Yeah, it did like a U-turn now. It's heading right towards Tampa.
Heading right. The entire state of Florida is going to be totally covered, and the West Coast is going to be in bad shape. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're going to be dealing with that down here. So certainly hope there's no cyber breaches.
Yes,
in the next few days. All right, my friend. Well, we're going to talk about something new and exciting next Monday.
Yeah, next weekend we'll have a different topic than Akira.
We'll pick something different than Akira, but hopefully anybody that watches this, you found this valuable and interesting. And if nothing else, whenever you watch this, whether it's today or it's a year from now, I hope it inspires you as someone or a decision maker to protect your business, to make good choices, and to not think this will not happen to me. It will happen to you. Don't be the one responsible for bringing the company down.
Exactly.
All right, Mr. Matt. I'll talk to you later, man.
Man, have a good one.
Be good.